I just hate stupid people. They should have to wear signs that just say, I'm stupid. That way you wouldn't rely on them, would you? You wouldn't ask them anything. Be like, excuse me. Oh, never mind. I didn't see your sign.
Go on to Kevin. How you doing?
Hey guys. I appreciate y'all taking my call. Trying to get my mind around this argument. I guess I'm an atheist-friendly Christian, I guess you would describe me as.
Cool. You can come to dinner.
You got wackos on the right. You got them on the left. And I'll tell you that when I see some of these religious, TV evangelists going on there, and it just doesn't look like to me. I'm not predispositioned to judge them, but it does not. And if they are not from God or of God, what you believe is God, then it's not. I think that they're hurting the cause, and you have that element out
right,
there
but we don't have any evidence to show that anybody is actually from God.
Yeah, I mean, what measurement?
That's why we're here. This is why we're having this conversation. We don't. The truth is, neither one of us know. I have faith that there is, and you guys are going, well, show me, and I understand it, but it's not right when you get an evangelist out there they're obviously doing something that like a Peter Popoff or
that
guy. Miracle Water. I just look at that and I cringe. Going, he's taken away from what you have these Christians that go out and they'll claim to be doing it for God. It's something really what I think that the majority of the public would think is not godly or of what a Christian would do. Well, they're probably not Christians.
Well,
and it's bad when they do that because it makes the people that have I'm not angry at y'all, and y'all aren't angry at me, but we can have a good
time. We're not angry at you. Right? I apologize if you thought we were angry with you. I'm not.
No, I don't. I've seen you angry.
Well, actually, no, you haven't.
Like me when I'm
actually been angry, but I have been riled. But what you're talking about, on the one hand, there's this problem of nobody can ever identify what a true Christian is, although some people will certainly try. And I think that is very much a strong argument against the existence, specifically of the Christian God, this inconsistent revelation. You've got people who surely, truly, actively believe that there is a God. They both believe in the exact same God. They both believe that if they are faithful and devoted and ask this God, that this God will tell them what it wants them to know. Both of these people believe exactly the same thing.
No, I think
now, hang on. Let me finish. Let me finish this one real quick.
I'm sorry.
If there's those two people who believe exactly the same thing about exactly the same God, and they then get inconsistent and even sometimes contradictory revelations, then what you have is either that God doesn't exist and these people are making it up themselves. They're talking in their subconscious and coming up with these revelations, or that God does exist and he is specifically giving misinformation to them, which, if that's true, completely denies the nature of the God that these people both believe in. So the only logical conclusion when you have these inconsistent revelations from what is supposed to be the same God is that he doesn't exist. And that's why you have such a hard time trying to find out who is and who isn't a true Christian, because anybody who wants to be is just as much a true Christian as anybody else, because from my standpoint, they all have equal footing. They're all getting making their own determinations about what they want to be true.
Right. I guess what I'd say to that is if anybody's claiming to say they have had revelations, and I'm not smart enough to know. I'm not that cerebral. But if they're claiming to, have some special power and some unusual tie to God that's above someone else, I would question it.
Well, I'm just talking about revelation about the true nature of something. Two Christians both pray to God about whether or not, let's say, gay marriage is right or wrong. And both of those people, true and honest believers, claim to have been given answers that are directly opposite each other.
Well, I would say to that, I go by what the Bible says. I'm not going to make a judge. It's not my part to judge them.
But
it's not my role. And you can interpret the Bible or the Quran or whatever. I guess I've heard you say.
But the question is, the question is, why go by what the Bible says? Because you just said that if anybody claimed that God talked to them, then you would be skeptical about it. So why not also be skeptical about what the Bible says?
Because that's a whole bunch of people who are wrote down.
That's the only thing we really have to go by. Now, I'm not saying that God hasn't. I don't know, but I would keep an eye open for that person that says, "Yeah, God told me to do this," or Pat Robertson. I think he's out there a little bit.
Let me hang on just a second. Let me hit 2 quick points and I'll let you come back. Number one, I've said many times on the show that if your position is just a flat out statement that I believe this on faith and I don't think it's logically or reasonably supported, I have no objection to that. I can't possibly comment on it or anything else. But what I'm hearing you say now is that you're going to trust the Bible, which is the words of long dead people writing down what they claim God told them to write. And yet you're disavowing anybody who comes up and says God told them something new.
So
books written by...
I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know. All we have to go by.
Sure you are.
Okay. Well, no, I'm not. I mean, I'm a human. I don't know.
No, you're smart enough to look into it and consider the options.
Yeah, you're smart enough to investigate the truth.
Joe Blow here tells me God told him something. I'm going to be skeptical. But this book, whose author I've never met, who I know nothing about, who I don't have the originals of, this book, which has been edited or modified or could have been edited or modified, this book I know nothing about, which is ancient and is essentially the same thing as Joe writing down what he claims God told him. I'm going to believe this one, the one I know the least about, over the guy standing in front of me who tells me what he says God revealed to him today. Now, I of course would reject both of them because I don't buy the premise that there is a God to tell them this, and they would have to supply more evidence. But to go with this ancient text that we know nothing about over the word of somebody standing in front of you who you believe to be otherwise honest, that to me represents a big fallacy.
Well, I mean, if from your point of view, you could look at it that way. What I would say to that is these events took place apparently 2,000 years ago or more, and they were on the scene, and it was their account. And as a Christian, that's how we look at it. And that's, in my view, that's the only way.
Yet you know nothing. You don't even know who wrote them. You don't know that those people were there.
As part of being a Christian, you take things on faith, and that's right. What the pretty much the foundation of Christianity is faith.
Oh no, I'm with you in the sense that I was a fundamentalist Christian studying, hopefully, to be a preacher at some point, up until just a couple years ago. And one of the critical things was in determining just how unreliable and unworthy of trust the book, the word in the Bible is. It contradicts itself. It contradicts known science. There are absurdities. There's contradictions in the nature of what it describes as God. There are contradictions about what the path to salvation is. If you read James's primary focus is on works, while others are talking about by faith alone, which is an abomination. You've got these Old Testament stories about an egomaniacal God who's running around smacking down civilizations so his chosen children can take over, but he can't beat iron chariots. And then in the New Testament, all of a sudden you've got this loving, love thy neighbor, turn the other cheek God, who, oh, by the way, has decided he's going to send you to hell and torture you forever if you don't believe it. And you've got competing ideas about the very nature of everything within this religion. And yet, I don't mean for you to think that I'm attacking you, because I'm just explaining all the problems in a nutshell, which forced me to accept that this book is unreliable. These testimonials and these concepts are unreliable, and they represent ignorance and barbarism thousands of years ago. People desperately trying to define their reality, what we were talking about earlier, in this vacuum of information.
Well, out of curiosity, what was it? The totality of the experiences you had that drove you away from the church, or what?
There weren't experiences that drove me away from the church. I went about a semi-normal life. I was a fundamentalist Christian growing up. I was active in the church and ministry, and then I went off and joined the Navy and lived kind of a worldly, pseudo-backslidden, sinful life. And then in my early 30s, I decided, you know what, maybe I've been going about this the wrong way. It's time for me to investigate what I actually believe, because there's a possibility that God might be calling me to be a preacher. And that's what started it. And it was a thorough investigation of the Bible, of Christianity, of history, of philosophy, of other world religions that led to my atheism.
Well,
I never got mad.
I hope that you can understand that, you know, I watch your show every Sunday down, religiously. Sorry.
That's all right. I love it when people say that.
They always say that too.
Hearing I'm trying to understand all of it, kind of like a bunch of people are, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I hate it when I see the Christian, quote, Christians go out there on TV and, in my opinion, and everybody has an opinion, do Christianity an injustice by what they're saying and what they're trying to do, make it a capital gain situation where they're selling something, and I think that's wrong. And there are bad Christians that make everybody else look bad. I hope you guys can find your answers. I'm going to let y'all go.
Okay.
But, appreciate the dialogue.
Sometimes when I'm up there on the scaffolding, you know, up high, and a twist lock cord around my neck and just diving.
If you're still here, you most likely wouldn't die anywhere because God's got a reason for you to be here.